Welcome to another Tuesday night podcast. We are broadcasting live tonight. We hope you are tuning in from your home, the comforts of your home. Maybe you're relaxing. You've had a nice long day. If you're on the West Coast, maybe it's winding down. It's 8 p.m. here Eastern time in Maryland. And I am with Kevin Fruman of National Lumber Company. Kevin is a returning contributor to our Tuesday night podcast. And we're going to talk about something that is kind of all over the news right now, and that is lumber prices tumbling. We had Kevin in May. We were talking about record high lumber future prices. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was paying $12 for a 2x4, and here we are just a couple months later, and it's tumbling. It's tumbling down, and we're gonna let you know what's going on, see just how much you should be saving, if at all more than what you're already seeing. And if you have these home projects that you're working on, the additions or, kitchen renovations, whatever it is that you're working on that you may have put on hold during the rocket high prices, hopefully Kevin's going to give us some insight and help us get on track. So Kevin, welcome back.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for having us, having me. I was lucky to be on the first one with you, and hopefully we can add some insight as to what goes on in our very small space, which is directly part of your world as well. The real estate market and our industry go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So I'm here to try to add some insight, tell you what we go through, what we're going through every day, and how we're trying to grind it out still and to get through everything.
Kevin, introduce yourself and, tell everybody what you do.
Okay, so I'm a fifth generation member of my family's business, National Lumber Company in Baltimore. Our business was founded in 1919. My dad is very active still in our business, does the majority of our purchasing. I'm very fortunate to have a brother in the business who's 44 years old. He's a huge part of what we do. Strategically, he and I try to figure out how to go against our competition. I act in a sales capacity primarily, and kind of like a cheerleader to everybody. I handle a lot of our problems at times during the day. And a lot of our accounts, and I work directly with our sales team, which is a window department, a kitchen department, and a contractor sales team. And we have a retail store in Baltimore City, and we operate a showroom out of Chevy Chase, Maryland, too, where we have begun to do business in the last 2 years to become a big part of our business. So our business caters towards multifamily developers, remodelers, and construction companies in the Baltimore, DC metro.
So when we were chatting back in May, per 1,000 board foot price for lumber futures was $1,670.50. I think it hit and the high. And you had said for the last 20 years, it hovered right around 400.
Yeah, it would hover in the $350, $400 a thousand. It's dropped. We're back down into like the sixes now, Todd.
Yeah. So today closed at 542.
Yeah. So it has dropped dramatically since pre-COVID or since COVID. And it's been very hard for us because when we spoke initially, I mentioned to you that my dad and our purchasing guys had been buying lumber all along. So from our standpoint, that has to come into our yard. We have to blend that into our inventory at that cost that we bought it. So now we're sitting on a tremendous amount of inventory that we have, not at today's market cost. And Home Depot and Lowe's and the big chains, there's a company called Builders First Source, BMC, 84 Lumber, Carter, Menards. These are huge lumber companies spread across the country. They are able to sell that material at the market rate always, or I should say a lot easier, because they can take a better hit on that than the independent dealer can, like ourselves. We'll get there, but we're going to lag way behind those other guys. When I say way behind, we're going to lag. It's going to take a lot of time for us to basically flush the inventory out. And there are going to be a lot of times where we're selling the material because we have to support our accounts and the customers. They came to us, Todd, all during COVID, and we had the material and we were able to help them even at the higher cost. So did we have great months during COVID? May and June, they were like record setting months for us. But now we're going to have to take a little bit of this on the chin, because there were really good times for us. And I mentioned this to you prior to us getting on. We're going to have to really grind the business out, and figure out a way to get through this. And we will, but for the independent yard like ourselves and all of our colleagues, people that I know that are in the business, we're all in the same boat. We're all sitting at the same inventory levels, depending on the volume of our businesses. And it's going to be difficult for us to get through this, but we'll get through it.
You were saying that your dad at one point, and I think this was right before, we podcasted in May. You were saying your dad actually was saying, "Hey, should we keep buying?"
Yeah.
And you guys were like, "We're buying. We're just gonna buy."
Yeah, we had to buy, Todd, because we had to support our builders. They needed to be dependent on us during this, because there really was a tremendous boom. And like I mentioned to you the first time around, it never stopped. The building never ever stopped during all of it. Mortgage rates were still incredibly low. The market was hot. People were at home. It wasn't just the builder; it was the do-it-yourselfers, the folks at home.
Now, when you were saying that you were having some of the most incredible months in business, and during the pandemic, and you were paying a lot of money for product inventory, were you making a lot of profit at that point, or were you just
I think we were doing well, I should say, but there's still a lot of risk in when you're buying any of this, because it still has to be inventoried correctly, Todd. There's always shrink, there's always damage, there's always dunnage, there's always material that has to come back from a job. So were we doing well? Yeah, we were doing well, because we were buying way before the market began to really spike. So a lot of the material that was coming into us at the time was lower than the market at that time. That we weren't ever gouging anybody. We were always very, very fair with everybody, because we were always looking at our competition to see where they had the market. So every day, my manager and our purchaser, they were looking at Depot's website or Lowe's website to see where they set the market. And if we could breathe on those items, we were coming underneath the market. The problem that struck, though, was the supply was in such short demand that we had to be very mindful and cognizant of who we were letting the material out to. Because if Todd Sachs Builders calls me, I know him, he's my friend, he needs something, we're going to help him. But we were approached many times during Corona, Todd, by people who we really weren't used to dealing with, or people that were doing business with us pre-Corona, asking us to be their supplier. And we're smart. We do our homework. We check on these builders. There's a reason they were coming to us. They could not get it from their normal supplier. So we were very, very protective of our accounts, our existing accounts.
Did you let them buy from you, or
it would depend on the item, and it would depend on, a lot of it was our gut. Are they using us? Is there an item that we can get if we can source it? If it made sense for us, yes, we would help them. But if somebody called up, Todd, and wanted to purchase let's say 2 units of CDX plywood during the high of the coronavirus, and we only had 8 in stock, I might not have let we might not have let two go out. We might have had to say just ship one, and we had to be really communicative and transparent with people and tell them exactly where we stood. That we just can't allocate everything to one builder. It's not fair to all the other people. So I think from an ethical standpoint and from a customer standpoint, we've been very, very good to our accounts that have been really loyal to us, because we look at we look at the accounts, the builders and our clients. They're our partners. They're just not our customers. They're my
They're keeping you
partner.
in business.
They keep us in business. They keep a lot of people moving on the chain, and they are incredibly loyal to us. A lot of them, not all of them, but look, in any business, they're the ones that have been very loyal to us. We are really, really good back to them.
So
And
Kevin,
and we need each other, Todd.
So Kevin, the sort of the real estate brokerage side, we were seeing builders kind of capping what they would sell a month, right? We had clients that wanted new home construction because they couldn't find, something to buy. And so we were watching the salespeople for the builders say, hey, we can only sell 4 houses a month or write 4 contracts a month. And they would just raise the price arbitrarily just because. They would say, like, every house goes up $5,000 or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're the first of the month or you're the 4th of the month, you may be spending $20,000 more because it's the 4th contract. Some people say, and I, of course, who knows, you would know more than me, but some people are saying that the reason why the lumber prices are dropping is because the builders started to refuse to build. And they were saying, look, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. Or basically, we're going out of business. You're pricing us out of the market. There's a huge, land's expensive. And then, 20% of the house is lumber. Is that true? I mean, why are the prices all of a sudden, they hit market high at 1,670 per thousand board foot.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden they're, a third of that. What caused the drop?
I think the demand is just not as high as it was pre-COVID. And there's abundant demand at the mill still. And it's slowly easier to beginning to get the supply of the material because the demand isn't as high. It really comes down to a supply and demand issue. I mean, that it's so basic. So
Do you think the builders had anything to do with it?
I think probably maybe on a national home level. Now, we don't sell to the track builders. We don't sell lumber package to those guys. We're selling packages to people who are building single families or rehabbers in Baltimore City, rehabbers in DC, or the remodeler packed. But yeah, I think people are getting wise, Todd. They're saying, you know what, I'm just going to table this right now. I see the market beginning to drop. I'm not going to do this project right now. I'm not going to build this house right now. And I don't know enough about the national home builders, what's on their mind or how they look at it, but a portion of it too has got to be they buy on contracts, those guys, and those contracts are set for X amount of time. You got to believe that the large home builders that and the truss manufacturers and the panel manufacturers, you got to believe that maybe they didn't take these contracts. Maybe they didn't re-up them. And they said, you know what, you got to do better for me here because we can't breathe here. So I do think there's a portion of that. I think there's a lot of frustration and hesitation that's out there. Now, the world that we live in, you and I, the DC Baltimore market, there's not a lot of new home construction. Like you said, there's not a lot of land. Is it out there? Yeah, but it's not like it is in a place like Colorado or Iowa, or where there's large tracts of land where new homes are really, really vast. In our world, we really live in a remodeling market. So it still has continued, though. The market, it's still strong. I mean, the demand for the work is still really strong. The contractors, the builders are busy. They're not calling us and saying, hey, I don't want to do this project because the price of lumber is so high. They just have to be very, very mindful of their language and how they write these contracts out and how they explain it to their clients.
So how do you compete with the big box? I mean, are you guys at all concerned with the amount of inventory that you have and the prices dropping? I mean, is this something that you're going to try and blow through
So
quickly?
we're going to have to flush through the inventory. I actually spoke to a builder today, somebody that's rehabbing a house in Baltimore City, and he called me and he said, Kevin, your price on lumber is too high. And I just said to him, all right, well, tell me what you need. So he sent me the list, and I got with our manager who does a lot of my buying. And I said to him, let's just flush this stuff out of here. Let's just start moving it out of here. So that respective order, Todd, we look at our margins really hard. We know that respective order, if you're really breaking it down, we lost money on that order. But we are beginning to flush out of the inventory. So you have to look at it as it's not a bad thing, because we had a lot of great months leading up to this. And I explained to him exactly where we were selling that margin at. And you know what he said? He wrote me back. He said, how do you compete? He texted us a list today. This is how the independents compete, Todd, the guy that's rehabbing a project, wherever it might be. He texted us the list today. He tells me what kind of vehicle he wants it on. You can get it on a box truck, a flatbed truck, or a Moffett truck, which has a forklift applied to the back. He said, I want it on a flatbed truck. This is where I need it. And we're able to spin it and turn it around in 24 hours. The box store cannot do that. They don't own their logistics. They don't own their vehicles like we do. We're able to set it in our computer. We have all of our software is tied into our sales system. So he'll have it tomorrow by the middle of the day. And he can't hump around, Todd. He can't hump around $1,000 worth of lumber in a pickup truck.
Yeah. So and I don't know the laws, but I kind of remember hearing about something where, you're not allowed to sell something that you sell every single day below cost.
Yeah. Well,
is that true?
I mean, we can sell it for whatever we need to. Your goal, you're in business to profit, obviously, but we can't operate at where the market is today always. But
there's no law that prevents you from.
No.
Yeah.
They don't know. Only we know internally what we own the material for. When we plug into our software system, we can tell exactly what we paid for that item. It's all blended into our inventory.
I thought it was like some kind of antitrust.
If there is, then all the lumber yards are in the same category, because we're all sitting with a lot of inventory relative to scale to the percentage of our volume. And we all have to flush through it, all of us.
Well, it may be different for commodities too. Prices are going up and down.
I was going to say the difference is with the companies like the Depots and the Lowe's, they're so flush with they're so large that they can operate at that market rate a lot easier than the independent dealer can.
Well, they don't have a warehouse. I mean, their showroom is their warehouse, right?
Yes,
so people go in, they pick it themselves, they throw it on the cart, and they leave. And so you had said that before. I mean, they're just kind of circulating it.
Yeah. So, and Todd, it would have been terrible when you asked me about the buying all the time. If we didn't have the material through Corona, we would have lost a lot of business.
Yeah.
So we were able to help that builder, and that builder was able to have a really good year and a half.
So, I've been pricing things, I haven't really rehabbed anything. I have flipped a bunch of houses through the years, and, I have rental properties, and I'm actually considering maybe bringing a couple more houses out of the ground in the next 12 months. And I've been checking prices. I mean, prices, these lumber prices, it's almost like it's following the news.
Mm-hmm.
The lumber prices are down. I mean, we're looking at, I don't know, what was it? 2x4s are under $6, right? 2x4 by 8.
They are.
They were $12. I mean, it seems like things are half price where they were in May. But when I look at everything else, I don't see any adjustment there. I mean, everything was kind of, I was getting, from all my suppliers, I was constantly getting these price increases, well, it's going to go up another 3%. Steel's going up 12%. and it seemed like I kept getting these like every month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any I don't see any sheets coming through that says, "Hey guys, prices are going down."
Yeah,
What do you see?
we always are telling our clients and the builders to call us directly, because whenever we receive that inventory, we're blending it in. So what we estimated to you today, it's very possible in a week it's going to be less money. It's actually very likely. So our advice right now is, internally, we want to move the material. You're hopeful that you can get it out of there, but if it's not a project you need to do, the way the market is trending right now, you would sit back and you would say, wait a minute, stop.
Kevin, this is exactly what I try and tell people about the real estate industry. So, people were, as the market was going up, 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 right? And we'll talk a little bit about the real estate market too. I know you have a couple questions, but as the market was going up, for people that haven't really seen the market going down before, maybe they weren't buying in 2008 because they were still in high school, maybe. But when prices are going down, the trends are going down. That's exactly what was happening in 08. We were, it was so hard to sell a house, especially to an investor, because they're like, well, I'll just wait. Tomorrow it's going to be less money. How do I pre-plan in my price today where it's going to be in a falling market tomorrow or in 30 days from now? So exactly what you're saying. It's like, now that you just said lumber prices are going down, if other materials are going down too, it's like, when do you wait to do that home project? Maybe you just wait another 30 days, go on vacation like everybody else is doing, and wait till the fall.
Yeah. I mentioned this to you before we got on the podcast. I was away this weekend and I flew home Sunday night, and I've never seen more people in the airport. So people feel like the coronavirus is really lessening. You hear that there might be a new variant out, but a lot of people are vaccinated and they want to get out. And those home improvement projects and those builders and a lot of those framers and those crews are now going away. They're spending their money on other things. And I think that alone too has probably led to a big dip in everything. The demand is not as high. People are not doing that deck right now. They're not doing exterior project. They might not be rehabbing their house in the summer. So when the demand isn't as high, the price is going to drop. There's no reason to pay a premium for something.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the home building and additions.
Yeah.
So I hear that the structural materials aren't really coming down. Is that true? Like
that's very true. So the engineered lumber, which is in our world, I-joists and LVL beams, and these items, Todd, are used to typically hold up a floor or hold up a roof system, and they're used to span garage headers and door openings. And they're very, very, in the way that a home was built yesteryear, all stick built. It's not built that way today. Everything is engineered, designed through an engineered floor and roof system. And those items are still very, very, very much in, they're allocated. They are in very, very incredibly high demand. So, when you cut a log, when you cut a basic log out, there's an A and a B face of that log, and those faces are used in the engineered lumber because they're the strongest parts of that tree. The other parts of the panels, the C's and the D's, that's what's used in plywood. Corona, we mentioned initially, Corona put a lot of people on the sidelines. So a lot of these people that were working at these timber mills, they're not working right now. So there's not enough labor. There's not enough transportation. So there's not enough labor in the timber mills out there.
This is still today?
This is still today. There's still people on the sidelines. People are still reeling off the government's checks and the fact that there's a coronavirus, there's a pandemic.
I was about to ask you how much of that weighs into.
I think a lot of it weighs into it. And also, Todd, like, people don't realize. I mean, if you've ever been to a timber mill, I've been fortunate enough to visit pine mills and sawmills. Never an engineered LVL or lumber plant, but it's really hard work. So, are you going to go work at one of those plants when you can go down the street at Walmart or Amazon Prime and make $17 or $20 an hour, where the timber mill is offering you the same number, and you're in a very dangerous setting. So depending on what part of the world you are and what kind of geography you're at and what kind of job structure you have, people are not going to be flushing to go work at a lumber processing plant. So those engineered products are still very, very much hard to come by. The raw material side of it, I think, has been fine because the freezes that happen in Texas over the winter, that's corrected itself. But you got to remember that when somebody buys an engineered lumber package from a lumber company, the lumber and the panels come right behind it. You need the panels for the walls, and you need the lumber to stick frame the house. So they all go hand in hand. So once the engineered lumber gets back up to snuff, then the panel prices fall, then the lumber prices fall, because you need all parts mimicking and sticking together to get it to where it's got to be. And that's actually a really critical.
How about hardware, nails? I mean,
well,
bolts.
the nail part. I was going to touch on this, and the steel part is a big, big problem because a lot of that steel gets manufactured, Todd, in places like Malaysia, China, Turkey. And those boats have to go through the Suez Canal. Well, what happened with the Suez Canal? It was blocked for 2 or 3 weeks. To further expand even more, a container cost pre-COVID to put a container on a boat was running roughly, I think, I spoke to one of my wholesalers today from Boise Cascade. His name is Phil White. He's a Baltimore guy, and he's been very helpful in helping me explain some of the questions you threw at us today. A container was costing $3,500 pre-COVID to the steel companies. Today, it's in the $15,000 to $20,000 neighborhood to get a container on a boat. Now,
let's go $3,500
to $15,000 at the height. So let's keep going. It's the margin on an Xbox machine, on a PS player, on clothing is way high greater than it is on steel and rebar and wire mesh and nails. So you're operating on really thin margins on those items. So if you're Sony and you're moving PlayStations across the country, you're going to pay that money for the container because you have it in the gross margin on the items you're selling. The steel, that affects our world critically. You need rebar in every building. You need wire mesh in every building. You need structural steel in every building, and it's all coming from overseas. Plus, Amazon owns probably 1/3 to 40% of that steel that's coming across. So you got to remember, 1, probably in 2 of every containers that's coming over with the steel, that's owned by Amazon. That's owned by one company. So the rest of it all falls to the building material dealers.
Amazon's in the steel industry?
Amazon is growing at a pace so large. I mentioned this to you the last time that apparently 1/3 of the steel coming into this country is owned by Amazon for them to build their distribution centers and warehouses. So that tells you how large Amazon is. That tells you kind of where we're going, at where this country is going. You know, they're this incredible logistics company where you can buy something and have it delivered the same day. That's the world we live in, Todd. Everybody uses Amazon. Everybody, for everything. You know, tonight I was leaving the business. My brother was having an issue with his computer. He says to one of our colleagues, "Hey, can I buy this tonight?" You hit the send button, it'll be there tomorrow. That's the world we live in today. So it affects our industry. It affects you. It affects me, because you need those steel component parts to do these projects.
So what about those things? Well, first, back up a second. You were saying that Texas, I know back in May, we were talking about, the glues and a lot of the poly products, paint products and things like that are manufactured, a lot of it in Texas. They had that deep freeze.
Yes.
And you said they're all back up and running. So
I mean, we haven't heard anything that's the reason as to why we can't get engineered lumber. It comes down to there is such a demand for these items because the backlog increased during Corona because there wasn't enough supply. The demand for the engineered lumber is still incredibly, incredibly strong. we're very fortunate that we are affiliated with some buying groups, and we have long-standing relationships with the wholesalers and the distributors we know, because they'll release the material to the lumber companies that are paying their bills.
Yeah.
They're going to be much more mindful to release it to somebody that's their partner, that's been supportive of them all these years, than the guy who's calling around, shopping around, just looking for anything. So
Yeah.
it really becomes, Todd, in a lot of ways, it becomes a scavenger hunt at times. You could, in the past, you'd get a phone call, hey, I need to order X. It was simple. You put the phone down, you call the distributor, it comes 3 days later. Now sometimes you hang the phone up and you say, well, who the hell am I going to call? I don't know who has it. I don't know. Can I breathe on the price that I sold it for a month ago? Do I got to go back to the builder and say, all right, I can find it now, but it's X. And every single thing we have to write on every estimate, on every email, on every document is subject to prior sale. It's here today. It's very likely that if you call me in a week, it will not be around. And we don't do that to really pressure people, Todd. We're doing it to try to really inform them that, hey, look, I'm not BSing you. If you need this, if you know you're going to need this, and you can breathe on the cost, it makes really smart sense to purchase it now when they have it on the ground.
So let me ask you a question. Can you tell us, I mean, what are your customers like now, the builders and the remodelers? I mean, have you seen, I mean, they were going through, I mean, they've had labor challenges, they've had, supply challenges, now their consumers are vacationing. We talked about that, a lot of people are away. So there's a slowdown, maybe one of the reasons why the prices are dropping. Are you seeing, are your contractors, I mean,
there's still, I think, really a high demand, Todd, because I think people realize that, hey, look, these are our homes. This is where we live. This is where we're going to be. I want to be comfortable in my home. It's still really inexpensive to borrow money.
Yeah.
And there is a significant demand for home remodeling, kitchens, windows, decking, millwork. The problem that lies with those items are the lead times have been extended to times that we've never been familiar with before.
Yeah.
And a lot of the items we just can't get. Decking, we can't get at times. Windows have extraordinary lead times. Kitchen cabinets in the past, which were 2, 3, 4 weeks, 12, 15, 18 weeks. It really throws a wrench at the builder and the consumer, because it may say 12 weeks on the paperwork, Todd. That's when the lumber company is going to receive it. In the past, we would say, okay, the paperwork says it's coming in on July the 20th. 95% of the time, you could say to the builder or the consumer, you know what, it's due to me the week of July the 20th. What I'm saying now is, hey, look, this is what the paperwork says, but I cannot guarantee it, and it could change very, very rapidly. And these are things that are out of our control. But the builders and the remodelers, Todd, there is still very, very, very high demand. People are still spending the money on their homes. The month of July and August, I think, are kind of an anomaly because, like we said, people are on vacation. I think from a mental health component, a lot of people said, you know what? I've just been through hell for the last year and a half. I've been locked in my house. Maybe I'm going to take an extra week vacation this summer if my employer allows it. And you see that, like I mentioned, when you go to a place like the airport or you go to the beaches, the beaches are packed, and it's not ending. It's going to continue through as long as the weather is good, and people have kind of, I think, been thrown back a little bit and said, you know what, I'm going to start spending a little more time with my family and my friends, because who in the world could have ever predicted this? We just never would have predicted this, and we would have thought we would have been at it by now. And look, we can sugarcoat it all we want, but we're not out of Corona. I mean, it's not perfect right now. There's still people that get sick, and there's still people that are getting sick, and there's still people that we just have a long way to go. And depending on where you live in the country, the mindset changes, but I don't think people feel 100% safe. They feel a lot safer than they did prior.
Yeah.
So people are spending money on their homes.
So what's trending right now? What type of projects are trending?
I think the main thing is what we spoke about earlier. I think the decking is still really, really hot, although it's really hard to get some of the rail systems. There are extensive lead times as long as the decking. The window business, we have a tremendous amount of open orders on our windows. Could be better, but people are really interested in renovating their windows in their home. I think kitchens are, if you have the right salespeople, can be, really, really something that people look at. You got to remember, Todd, a lot of people are on the internet a lot. I mentioned this to you, and they're doing their research, and they go on the Instagram, and they go on the Hows, and they go onto all these websites, and people are really interested in these products, and they're interested in remodeling their homes. They're interested at least beginning the process to get their feet wet in the sand and figure out what something's going to cost. And I mean, we're very, very blessed and fortunate to be in the world we're in, because people are always going to remodel their homes. Is the market going to change? Yes. Are we going to have a recession at some point? Yes. But as long as you can borrow money, people are going to continue to do it. And it might be at a smaller scale, but people are going to continue to want to improve where they live. It's just the way the world operates. People always, I think, rely on the mantra or the mindset: I want my home to be worth more money than it was when I paid for it.
Yeah, it's amazing how cheap money is. I mean, it started creeping back up again, and now it seems like it's back down again. I even saw some like 2.75% on new purchases. I mean, is what I'm hearing. Um, so money is cheap. I mean, it's certainly cheaper than it's ever been. I was looking at a graph, and they were, comparing from the beginning of time to where we started, banks started lending money, and the interest rate, we're at an all-time low historically. So yeah, great time to get those home projects done, especially with prices coming down on a lot of materials. So how about other places in the country? So I know you're part of a co-op.
Yeah, we're part of a buying group, and we talk to our people all the time. We're actually scheduled for a conference call. I think they're in the same exact boat as us. We all operate kind of pretty much on the same, close to volume. They're probably all sitting on higher inventory than they wish they had for, and their market prices are dictated by the boxes too. And we rely on our salespeople and our reputation and our name to get the product on the street, to get it out to the market, because people purchase from National Lumber Company because of their salesperson and that they trust us. So we're all in the same boat. There's nobody that blew through all their inventory, Todd, and now is buying it all at the market rate. It's just not how the business operates. You always have to be purchasing, and you always got to be hoping that you're buying it at the right price. And we buy it at the time at the right price, but the market is way ahead of, or the chains, I should say, are way ahead of us. We always kind of lag behind because they're able to take a bigger hit than us on the forefront.
So are you seeing that, back to the contractors, are you seeing that their clients are backing off of at all? I mean, you say they're in high demand. Is that just because of labor?
I think you see it. We do a tremendous amount of estimating, Todd, a tremendous amount. I mean, we don't get paid to do our estimates, but God, we spend a lot of time doing work, and they call up and they say, well, should I buy it? And then you got to really begin to feel them out. It's a real catch-22 if you really want to think about it from an overhead view, from like looking at it from 30,000 feet down.
Yeah.
They got to be very stringent in their language and how they write this to people and say that the market, and I think it potentially can scare somebody off. Hey, look, here's your price today on the windows, but in X amount of time, they're going to go up 6%. Here's the price today on your lumber. This price is only good for 1 week. People don't like to be, as a whole, I don't think people like to be backed into a corner and said, oh, hey, This is not your price.
Yeah.
You go to a car dealership, you want to buy the car, you negotiate with the dealership, they give you the number. If you want to keep negotiating, you go to all the different dealerships, you get the price. In our world, we just can't hold it. That's just not how we operate. We kind of operate like a gas station, if you think about it. One day the gas is X, and the next day it might be a couple pennies less, and the next day it might be and we're all working on the same margins, and we're just trying to. At the end of the day, Todd, like the independent lumber yards, like myself, like my family, and the other ones that are spread around Maryland, DC, and across the country, they're just trying to eke out a profit at the end of the year and really stand by their customers and build a partnership with their builders, because that's the ones who are successful, the ones that align themselves with Todd Sachs and say, hey, Todd, you're going to build a couple houses. How can I be your partner? How am I going to figure out a way for you to make money? What can I do? So what separates us and how we are able to do this is we pick up the phone, we call people, and we're very, very communicative in how we get our message across and explain to them what is going on. Like, why is this occurring? We dumb it down for them and say, look, this is truly a supply and demand issue. And if I got to take a hit on this, if I got to take a 3, 5, 8 hits to get you right, I'm going to do it to maintain a relationship long term.
So do you see any kind of industry consolidations amongst building supply companies?
Yeah, we see it all the time. I mean, it's rapid. I don't have any stats for you, but one of my competitors, a company called T.W. Perry, who is local. If this is hard to digest, but just follow me here. In November, a company called People Supply in Hyattsville sold their business to T.W. Perry. T.W. Perry was then purchased by a company called, I might be getting this mixed up, but T.W. Perry was then purchased by a company called BMC. BMC was then purchased by a company called BFS. Now, this is 45 miles from us. So if you walked into T.W. Perry, if you walked into People Supply in Hyattsville in November, and you walk back in there today, their ownership hands have changed 4 times. And that's 45 miles from here. There's a tremendous amount of consolidation because lumberyard models as a whole that are established and viable, they return a profit every year. It may not be a huge profit, but it's a very solid business because it's very, very, the foundation is built. To start one today would cost a lot of money for the inventory, for the buildings, for the operations, for everything. So these private equities that own these consolidated lumber companies like USLBM and LBM Advantage, they are able to buy them lumber companies because they return a profit every year. And would you rather make 6, 8, 10% at a lumber company or put it in a CD and make 3 or 4%? So they're very, very aggressive with how they do that. That said, we're not interested in selling our business. It's nothing we talk about. We really operate our business from we really think about it. Even though we have a strong grip on our market, I think it's the last thing across our mind. We feel like we're a foundation in Baltimore. We feel like we're really part of the community, and we're helping not only a lot of people that I work with, but a lot of people, support their businesses, supply their work.
So this is probably, though, when you look at, I mean, you've been in business 100 years. You guys have seen some ups and downs. I mean, are you having any kind of, closed door meetings where, you're kind of saying, all right, we think this is about to happen?
Yeah. I mean, we talk ad nauseum. All of us, we're in a big pod. We're with each other all the time. It's a lot of hearsay, Todd. I think we really have to get through the first of the year. I think that's going to be a really big step for all of us to get into the year 2022. We really don't know. It's a lot of, we ask a lot of questions, and somebody might tell you it's going to end in a month. Somebody might say it's going to end in 2 months. We really think that, the prices are going to begin to really
when
decline.
You say end, what do you mean?
Meaning the prices are going to stabilize to the point where they are not back pre-corona, but where they are a lot easier on the budget
Don't you just think, I mean, we're headed for some price hikes. I mean, don't you think that? I mean, this is kind of like, I kind of look, I have my own opinion, with all of this stuff, and that's all it is. It's my opinion. But,
yeah,
I kind of look at it as, the housing industry, we have these pressures, we have record sales, record demand, people frantically trying to find a place to buy and live and call their home. And then all of a sudden you saw all these prices kind of go bust through the ceiling and now you see it's almost like, oh, wait a minute, we got to retract this and kind of bring it back down. But don't you kind of feel it's just temporary? I mean, don't you think we're going to more higher pricing and inflation?
I mean, the inflation has been through the roof, but I don't know. I mean, it's all a gut. My gut tells me that we're going to see the prices decrease probably through the end of August because of the vacations and so forth. All right, then we get back into September and October, which are typically really good months for the lumber industry as a whole. Common sense would say, yeah, they might spike. The demand's going to go up for those months. Those are great months to build in: September, October, November. But then you get into December, January, February, which are typically the three hardest months of the year for us. And God, if we have weather issues, if we have snows and cold, people aren't building. So it's very, very possible, Todd, that what you're saying is incredibly likely. We just don't know. We if you look at this chart, it's really, really interesting. But who knows? Could it go up again? Of course it could. I think from our standpoint, we're really praying that this stuff stabilizes, just because you want things to be affordable. You want people to not view the world we live in as so tumultuous and unpredictable. People are much more comfortable in a level playing field than they are not knowing where the market's going to be every day. And Todd, we hate sending out an estimate saying, all right, here we go. We're good for a week, but call me back. And, this isn't going to be accurate.
Yeah,
this price is not going to be good. This price is not going to be good July 27th. It's good.
Yeah, today. I can only imagine your conversations. And now with the news saying that everything is cheap, right?
Yeah. So
they're looking at you saying, okay, where's the cheap? Or I don't mean cheap, but you know what I'm saying.
We spend a lot of time on the phone and answering emails and answering people and trying to explain to them what's going on. But nobody could have ever predicted this for all of us. We're just, every day we try to just navigate the system. And at the end of the day, I think part of our success too, Todd, and all the independent dealers, and I can't speak for the chains, but we really are, as an industry, the suppliers are very, very honest with our builders. We tell them the truth. We have to, because there's a lot of competition out there, and they can go anywhere and buy the same items down the street.
Everything, especially in my industry. I mean,
it's no different in your industry, Todd.
Yeah.
People use you as a broker because they trust you. They believe that what you're telling them is accurate, and that you're going to be fair with them and honest. And we're in the same boat. We're just moving commodities. You're moving real estate.
So I know you and your brother were kind of talking about the big topic for me, right? Are we seeing a
slowdown?
A slowdown.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, because it all correlates into what we do. I mean, everything starts in the building material world and winds up to the home builder or to the real estate market. So when your market begins to die, or when we start to get slow, that's when it's a real alarm for somebody like yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are definitely seeing some type of cooling off. And I speak from our little, microcosm, our little piece of what we do, which is very small, compared to, all the transactions that happen in Maryland and even nationwide. But I have spoken with a lot of friends in the industry in various states, and they're definitely seeing, traditionally, this is vacation time. We talked about that. I mean, people are going away. You've mentioned the beaches are packed, the airports are packed, and it's 100% true. I mean, people are traveling. And, I think part of it is being cooped up and, locked down. And now they're wanting to get out, go visit family and things like that. But we are seeing an interesting shift where inventory appears to be sitting a little bit longer on the market. But the biggest thing is, the buyer remorse, the conversations, and, the flurry of, just everybody panicking to get the deal, and, the escalation clauses and the removing the contingencies. And we're starting to see where properties are coming more back to active, from being in pending status. And, talking to people and ourselves, and our experience is a lot of it is, after they sign the contract, they started thinking like, hey, maybe this wasn't the best thing to do, or the best, to give them this much money after they have like an as-is inspection. And then all of a sudden, they see that the house will probably need some things in the next year or couple years that may, make it less desirable. And then we saw a lot of fatigue just kind of catch up, where the buyers just said, you know what, I'm just going to take a break. They were losing 6, 7, 8 contracts, getting their hopes up. I mean, we've bought houses, what kind of goes into it. You're excited. I even had one listing where the buyer's agent said, look, can they now take their kids back to see it now that it's under contract, because they were tired of, the kids being so excited and picking bedrooms and then finding out that they weren't getting the houses because they were beat out. But we definitely see a shift. I do still believe that there is enough inventory, or that isn't enough inventory for the demand. So I think that the prices may stay. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think they'll stay very, upward trending like they have. I don't see any major correction, at least my opinion. And another interesting thing, though, in talking to a lot of investors, is the conversation with, the moratorium. And, where some of these investors that had tenants that, really weren't paying their bills necessarily before the pandemic, just stopped paying altogether in a lot of cases. And we're starting to see where landlords are saying, hey, what's this place worth? Because I'm not doing this again. I'm not going, I'm done with landlording. Maybe they only have a couple houses, but they're fed up because, they haven't been paid in a year, and they're struggling. So we're seeing that, the investors are starting to think about selling. The question is, what is it worth? As inventory starts coming on the market and things are becoming more competitive or need work, and you have this buyer that is now cooling off with these as is, willing to fix anything. It's okay, I still want to buy it. We're starting to see that slow down. That'd be an interesting time for when more inventory hits the market.
You mentioned I was with a friend last week, and he looked at a vacation home, and he told me he was like $100,000 off on it, and he was saying how disappointed he was that he didn't just offer that, because the price of the increase of it was a third higher than what it was, the value at the time. So you probably see a lot of that buyer remorse, I would think, especially on people's second homes and even their primary homes. I would assume. I don't know.
You better really want it.
Yeah.
Right. And you better have some cash, because
you need to have the cash.
If they're not appraising, and we're seeing things not appraise, and, appraisal gap contingencies where people were like, well, we'll spend up to $35,000 over any appraisal, so they have to have cash for that. And then they better have cash for when things start to go wrong.
Yeah, Todd, I want to mention something, because I know we don't have a ton of time, but I think when you mentioned the home builders too, are they dropping back? I think a lot of the home builders are very hesitant, especially on a custom or a higher end home remodel, because the lead times are so unpredictable. They don't want to wait 6 months for windows. They don't want to wait 4 months for an entry door system. They don't want to wait 3 months for the cabinetry. The process just gets to the point where every day I think they're losing money. And in the world that we operate in, if you order a house of windows, if you order a kitchen cabinet a custom kitchen, if you order 30 pre-hung doors, there is no way that every single one is going to be right. So now they say to themselves, okay, I ordered 30 windows and 28 of them came in and the lumber company damaged 2, or the vendor broke 2 of the sashes. Do I got to wait another 4 months for the windows? And part of us from our world, when we look at an order and we don't get it, and this never used to be the way in the past, we're almost relieved, because do you want the pressure and the stress knowing that, okay, I just ordered X amount of dollars worth of a cabinet set. It's 14 weeks out. Everything has to be right. That corner cabinet I ordered, if that's not wrong, I can't. If that's wrong, I got to set the kitchen.
Yeah.
And we don't always make the mistakes, Todd. You know, the distributors can make an error. The trucking company can make an error. So many things have to go right on these new home builds and these remodels for all the pieces to flow together. And the puzzle, it doesn't always fit properly. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist here. I'm trying to be a real realist.
Well, if it's not an end cabinet, you can't set the kitchen. If it's
but if we ordered a door unit and we ordered everything right and we waited 4 months for it and it comes in and the custom homeowner says, you know what, I don't like the way it's stained, I don't like the lock prep. Now what? We can't make it right for another X amount of time.
Well, we see it with appliances lately.
Yeah, appliances too. But you see that from the home builder end, they're hesitant to say, do I really want to take this project on, knowing that they say it's an X amount of lead time, but it really could be 8 months before I'm out of this person's house. And people want you in and they want you out. They don't want you lingering around. Nobody does. It's uncomfortable to open your home up and have it continually opened. And there are so many products. There's such a vast product mix. There's so many options in today's, and people do their homework and they research. They go on the internet, and Todd, the dealers, the lumber dealers, the chains, everybody, we got to nail it from the beginning. And we're humans. Mistakes happen in all of our industries, and if a mistake happens, it can be really costly, not just from a price standpoint, but from a lead time standpoint.
So, Kevin, anything, as we wind up here, I mean, anything that you'd like to add?
I mean, to the people that are watching and to those that are interested in our world and want to know how it operates, you can certainly reach out to our website. It's nationallumber.biz. It's a really great spot. We have a great website. We have a great social media presence also on Instagram and Facebook. And to the builder that might be watching, call your dealer yard, ask a lot of questions, call your salesman. The people that ask the most amount of questions, although you may feel like you're being a nuisance at the time, the people that gather the most amount of information are the ones who are going to be the smartest in the end. So reach out to us, call us if you're local. If you're not local, try to affiliate yourself with an independent dealer yard, Todd. I think people feel so much of a sense to get the best price always. The best price is not always what the depot and the Lowe's say it is. There's a reason that somebody likes to go to Five Guys for a hamburger and pay $7, and there's a reason somebody goes to McDonald's. We are the Five Guys of our world. We pride ourselves on our service and our products. And the reason I say go to an independent dealer yard, when there's an issue, you're going to get a hold of us right away. When you have an issue with the depot, you're not going to speak to Arthur Blank or Bernie Marcus. You're going to talk to somebody who's managing that store. So those dealer yards the independents offer a tremendous amount of insight, a tremendous amount of a tool to help somebody make money. At the end of the day, our goal is to help the builder, the remodeler, the investor, the developer make money. Everybody, the way it should work is everyone should make money. The manufacturer, the timber mill, the wholesaler, the dealer yard, and the client.
Well, Kevin, we really appreciate your time tonight. We appreciate you being on, and we will make sure that all of your links are published in the show notes. And guys, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you are, even out of state, certainly drop a comment, and Kevin will try and point you in the right direction, as will I. And see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Todd.